Hello and welcome to the MG EVs podcast, streaming live today, Monday the 11th of October 2021. We're here to talk about all the MG electric vehicles, though tonight we're focusing on the ZS EV refresh, and we're hoping to inform and entertain you for about an hour or so. I'm Dave Stewart, username Dave S on the forum, and joining me for this week's podcast are from South Wales, Michael Fisher.
Hi, username Fish the Bean on the forums.
Thanks, Mike. A new guy from Chorley, Steve Green.
Hi, Steve. Steve is Green on the forum.
Thanks, Stephen. Welcome. And from Yorkshire, the Innovations Development Manager at the Chorley Group, Miles Roberts.
Hi, everyone. Miles per kilowatt hour on the forum.
Thanks, Miles. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and please click on the like button and join in the discussion in the chat window. We'll be referring to that all the way through the podcast, hopefully. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to watch this video, and please subscribe and get a notification when we go live the next time. As I said in tonight's podcast, we're going to chat about the ZS EV refresh. But first, I'd like to welcome Steve Green to the podcast. Steve, tell us a wee bit about yourself. What kind of car are you driving, and when did you make the switch?
I made the switch about just coming out for a year ago. I drive a ZS EV. Before that, I was a Leaf owner. I'm currently on Motability. So these have been Motability vehicles. I was a motor mechanic before my injury, and so I've gone from ICE to EV, and I'll never go back.
Yeah, great. So that's another technically blessed one. Oh, God. Stuart and Sean Cullen, I need you back, guys. We need some more Luddites here. Folk who know what they're talking about, dearie me. Anyway, we had a great podcast. Miles, I've really got to say well done last week. You had Guy Pigunakis from MG. Was that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, good. And I thought it was excellent, and see lots of good feedback. And the sort of main takeaways I got from the podcast was, as we all know, MG sales are doing really very well. MG are investing in the brand in the UK and certainly in Europe, and that there were new vehicles coming. He was tantalizing us a bit by just saying that there's a new car in a new niche group, etc. I'll tell you, if it's a van, I'll be seriously hacked off, I must admit. But well done. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And how did it go from your point of view?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it went really well. I mean, Guy has been in the industry for a great number of years, and his knowledge about the motor industry, and particularly about electric cars, actually, is it's up there with the best. So he's obviously previous to working at MG, he spent a short period at Richmond Motor Group, which is an MG dealership, and run several dealerships there as the operations manager. And then he's gone to, prior to that, he was working for Hyundai Motors UK, and he was involved with setting up the Ioniq launch in the UK and things like that. So he's been involved with electric cars for a while now, sort of a good 5-6 years. And before that, obviously, when setting it up. So, and he's got a good, obviously, he also set up the MGF and the MGTF program at MG when he worked back at MG Rover back in the day. So I think he's got a good appreciation of both sides of where we're interested in. And he's also said that he'd like to come back and do some future podcasts with us. So hopefully that's something we can look forward to in the not too distant future. We can think of some good questions we can come up with to ask him.
Yeah. I found it really good, and I think that format of once in every wee while we do an information burst podcast is really quite good. Although I did see some people were actually trying to ask you questions live last week, which kind of missed the point. But yeah,
we'll have to plan that better on the forum, perhaps, in terms of how we describe it. But yes, no, I thought it went well, and yeah, I look forward to the next one we can do together.
Great. Oh, well, many kudos to you. It was very good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So as I said right at the get-go, we're going to be speaking mainly about the ZS EV refresh, which every time I click on one of the screens to watch a YouTube video or whatever, I think Miles Roberts is on more often than Romesh Ranganathan at the moment. I just can't get away from the guy. But Miles, we're going to rely on you heavily. We know you've had some insider knowledge about what's going on here. First of all, the aesthetics. The new car looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, so obviously we've got, the first thing you notice, it's got that new front bumper. There's no grille on the front, so it's all smoothed in with some like dimple effects on the front where the grille would have been. And they also have the new flat MG logo as well, which is used for the first time on a UK model. So that means that, you know, the styling's just moved on a little bit from where we were before. With it being an EV, they've decided that rather than, obviously the previous model ZS EV has got the same grille effectively as the petrol version, which if you look at it is slightly concave and it acts a bit like a windbreak as you're driving along. It does catch quite a lot of the air. So this new front bumper that MG has gone with is a lot more aerodynamic. We've got the new charging flap, which is off to one side there as well. For those of you who are looking at the pictures at the moment on YouTube, you can see there's a front-mounted camera just under the MG badge on the trophy model. So this on the trophy model, you now get 360-degree cameras, which Steve, you've had a Leaf before, so presumably you've seen the 360-degree cameras on Nissans before.
Yes.
And it's a great feature. It really does stitch together really well, makes it really good when you're trying to park in a tight space or you're looking for the white lines, etc., looking for the curved lines. So so that's a welcome addition. As you can probably see on that photo as well on the forum, on the YouTube video, we've got a lower grille, which is an actual grille that's got access to airflow to cool down things like the battery and the charging element, motor, and so on, and also the air conditioning condenser. So that lower part is a real grille, but as I say, above it you've got that sort of stippled, almost like a golf ball sort of dimples in the top part. And actually in the flesh, in the metal, in the plastic, I don't know how you want to say it, but in real life, it does actually look very, very good. It looks very sleek, very similar to a Tesla Model 3 sort of look to it, really, I suppose, without, you know, with having the grille-less front there. And then we've got those sort of chrome lines down the front. Now, they actually sort of remind me of the nose cone on a Formula One car. You know, there's sort of two, the front diffuser sort of going down and across. That sort of, that was the first thing that came to my mind anyway, as I was stood next to the car. And obviously, the other thing is the new blue. So we're replacing Pimlico blue, which is that sort of silvery, light baby blue, with Battersea blue, which is more striking sort of vivid blue colour. And there's also a new colour as well for the ZS EV, which is Monument Silver, which is a new sort of, it's slightly lighter than the silver on the MG5. It's a different colour. But it does look very good in that colour, I think, if you've had a chance to see any pictures of that. So, and there's also new wheel design. So before we had the windmill wheels, and these new ones are designed like propellers, apparently. So yeah, aesthetically it stands out. It looks different. You can tell straight away by looking at it that it's a different car to the previous model. You also tell it's different to the actual petrol or diesel, not petrol model MG ZS. So it does also stand out that way. Previously, it was a bit difficult unless it was a Pimlico blue. You couldn't really tell whether it was petrol or electric, and now you can very easily at a glance.
So already you've answered one of the things I saw on the threads and the chat about the new revamp. Somebody was saying, oh, that's an oversight that there isn't all-round parking sensors, but with a camera, I suppose that is effectively better than parking sensors. You can actually see.
Yeah, you've still got reverse parking sensors, but the cameras work really, really well. And to be fair, the previous model Nissan Leaf didn't. That used to have just around view cameras on the Techno and not have parking sensors at all. So in some ways, I think the around view cameras do negate the need for parking sensors at the front, and it means that you don't get the spurious false alarms, which you do sometimes when you're following a car with a big exhaust. Sometimes I've had them set off the parking sensors on other cars.
I've
So-
seen also on the chats here and on Facebook about a lot of people saying it looks very Ford Mach-E, very Kona with a new front end. I know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've gone for a very EV looking front grille. If by smoothing it off and putting those dimples on there, it does have echoes of the Mach-E. It does have a bit of echoes of the Tesla and the Kona and the e-Niro. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that if it helps efficiency.
I have a Kona also here in the family, and we're thinking of chopping that in for another ZS. This one will be the one. The one thing I do like about it, the charge flap, having a bad back. Oh, with the existing one, it's such a bugbear.
Yeah, so coming on to that actually, so the redesign of the charging port there, it's now a side hinged flap which has got two spring hinged solid plastic port covers inside. So rather than having rubber bungs, we've got two little clip flaps, again similar to what you'd find on the Nissan Leaf, for example. So they're easy to access. They don't get jammed in. They don't have any issues with the bungs hanging down and rubbing on your paintwork or anything like that. So it's all a lot neater. It's a lot tidier, and I think it looks good there. The reason why it's on the offset from the grille rather than being in the middle, because obviously the previous one was under the center of the MG badge. The reason it's off to one side is because they've now got the camera mounted centrally. So you don't really want to have camera wires going up and down every time when you move the flap. So that's why that's offset to the side. So to go over the two battery sizes, we've got a long range version, which has got a 72.6 kilowatt hour total size battery. And that'll give up to 273 miles on the WLTP combined test, which means that on urban journeys, you could get 350 miles total range. If you just do, so those people that use it as taxis, for example, get plenty of range with that. And then they're doing a standard range version, which is using a 51.1 kilowatt hour battery, giving up to 198 miles WLTP, which is roughly sort of 40 miles more than you get in the current ZS EV. So I think that, giving the choice of both of those options, size-wise, I think that there are obviously a number of people who are going to go, yeah, I want the biggest battery, I need the biggest battery, I want to be able to do 300 miles near enough without charging. But I think by having the low range option, I think for a lot of people, I was just doing a training presentation today for some staff tomorrow, and the average journey length in the UK is 9 miles a day. That's the average UK journey. So, 198 miles or 145 miles or even 100 miles really is enough for the majority of car owners. So 198 miles with a standard range, I think that there are quite a lot of people who'll consider going for that rather than paying perhaps £3,000 extra to go for the full range. I still think the majority of people will go for the long range because bigger number is better. But I think that when people sit down and do the finances, they're going to have to sort of think, well, is it worth paying an extra? I don't know. It might be sort of £50 or more a month. I don't know, on finance, might potentially, for the sake of that extra 80 miles range that I might never need.
That's exactly one of the reasons I want to chop my Kona in, because it's got too much range.
With the battery capacities, are they usable or is it total?
So that's the total battery size. The usable is closer to 70 kilowatt hours and 49 kilowatt hours, respectively.
Someone was asking the shape of the front, is that more efficient?
Yeah, by having the smoothed off and lack of grille and lack of, let's say, that sort of parachute on the front that the MG logo was before, it makes it more aerodynamic. So the overall efficiency has gone up by something like 0.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it, when you're talking about multiples, it does mean it potentially gets an extra, 10, 15 miles just by having more aerodynamic face on it.
Yeah.
And then what else to say? So so externally, I think it looks different. I think it looks new. It's also got LED headlamps. So yeah, LED headlamps and taillights. So the full projector headlights, so with LEDs. So for those of you who complained about the dim candles that were in the original ZS EV and wanted to upgrade your headlights, well, just upgrade your car instead, Dave, and you'll have a brilliant LED headlamps there as well. So that's
legal. There's actually been a real load of chatter this week about, is it A, legal, B, insurable, etc., to refit with LED headlights. So I've nailed my colours well and truly to the mast. As soon as this comes out, I'm 1-to-1. And just as viewers will have heard me say before, being up in Inverness, trying to get down to even Perth, but Edinburgh, Glasgow, the extra mileage is just going to be fantastic for me. So
it makes a massive difference when you live in the sticks. It really does, because it's okay for me to say average distance is 9 miles, but obviously there are people like yourself, Dave, who live further away from civilization, and and you need to make sure that you've got.
Calm down, Scotland. Calm down.
Is there a heat pump?
Don't know. I don't know. I'm hoping to find out. So I'm waiting for my invitation to the press day. It's a press launch, which is exciting because I've not been on a press launch before, so that will be good. I hope, and then I'll ask these questions and hopefully find out as well. Yeah, I don't know if there's a heat pump or not. One thing that makes me think it does have a heat pump is that it's got the ability to preheat the interior. So yeah, if we come on to sort of the new features inside the car. So the new infotainment system, so it's got a 10.1-inch tablet style screen inside the car, which looks fantastic, really clear, really fast. When I was using the one in the test vehicle, it was reacting like an iPad. It was, you're swiping left and right and it was following your finger as you did it. It wasn't like the current, ITV +1 situation where you press something and then have to wait. It was actually really responsive. So that was a massive improvement. And some of the things that I found when I was playing with that tablet in the vehicle was that you can now set a maximum charge level percentage. So on, for example, Tesla Model 3s and things, you can choose what level you want the battery to charge to. You can choose, 100% if you need to have full charge, or you can choose, say, 80% if you want to conserve the battery, or 60% if you perhaps don't want to top up fully, you just want to top up a little bit, and so that's now selectable. So you just drag your finger to where you want it to stop. It's in 10% increments, but yeah, so you can set it on that, and you can also set that via the app, which is now available as well. But also you can now set a discharge level, and that's because the car has vehicle to load capability. So that means that you can plug in an adapter to the charge point on the front of the car, and you can use that then has effectively a 3-pin plug output, and you can then run auxiliary devices from that. So if you were to go camping, for example, and you can pitch your tent next to your car, you can run all of your lighting or perhaps even a kettle or whatever from your car and use it as a little camping device, as a battery store in that case. Well, you can set a maximum discharge level so that if you go camping and you're using it for your lights and all the rest of it, you can say that you want a minimum level remaining, so like 20%, or you can set it up to 50%, so that you've got enough to get from the campsite to the next charger, so you don't completely flatten your battery in the middle of nowhere. And you can set charging timers on the screen there as well, and you can also set preheat timers on there as well. So it's a very fully featured infotainment system. It works really well. The climate control, it now has climate control. Yeah, that's worth saying as well. So rather than just a red to blue dial, you've actually got temperature increments which are automatically controlled. So you set it to 20 degrees and it heats or cools as it needs to. So yeah, so that's excellent.
Miles, I see Adam's asking a question which I'll pretend I know the answer to, but he's saying bigger battery also means faster charge. That's obviously the case, isn't it?
Yeah, so having a bigger battery allows a battery to accept a higher charge rate generally. So we usually look at the maximum charge rate of a battery is usually 2 times. It's usually what's described as 2C. So if you have a 50 kilowatt hour battery, the maximum it can get to without overheating is usually 100 kilowatts. Yeah. So if you have a 75 kilowatt hour battery, you might be able to charge it at 150 kilowatts. So in theory, the bigger batteries, if it's a 72 kilowatt hour battery, may be able to accept over 100 kilowatts charge rate if MG have allowed it to do so. At the moment, the documentation I've got from MG states a 76 kilowatt DC rapid charge limit, but I don't actually know if that's true, because things have been found to be different when we actually got to the launch vehicle, to the actual production vehicle. So they're saying 76 kilowatts, which would mean it would charge from, say, 30 to 80% in around half an hour. We'll see actually what it's like. I'm obviously going to test that as soon as I can with the production spec vehicle. The app, so the iSmart app, so that's the new thing that was talked about. Obviously, people who were previously had a Nissan Leaf, who had an app with that, or had a Kona or whatever and had an app with that, were berating MG for not having application access in the UK. So there's a new iSmart app, which will be available for all models of ZS EV facelift. So whether you go for the SE or the Trophy, which are the two new names that replace Excite and Exclusive. So SE roughly translates to Excite, and Trophy is the new name for Exclusive. And the specifications were vaguely similar to what they were on the previous model, in terms of, the Trophy will have the glass roof, the heated pleather interior, etc. But if you get either of those models, you'll get access to an app. So iSmart Lite gives you access to the vehicle status, so charging status, battery percentage, etc. It's also got a car health check on there, so it'll do the tire pressure checks and things like that. If there's any warning messages on the car, it should warn you on the app. It gives you a Find My Car situation as well. So if your wife has taken your car and driven away, and she calls you and says, I've broken down the middle of nowhere, you can click and find the car, and it'll tell you on the app whereabouts she is exactly, or if she's got a lover. Climate control timers on the app as well, and charging timers on the app as well. So all that's contained within the app, which is free with both the SE and the Trophy. But the information we have from MG is that they're also going to offer an option called Trophy Connect. And Trophy Connect, it sounds like it's a software update only. So basically you buy a trophy and you pay a small subscription on top. And then that gives you access to additional services such as real-time traffic updates, route planning, weather updates. It'll give you points of interest searches in navigation system. And it'll also give you an Amazon Music stream account, because all of this iSmart cloud stuff is provided by Amazon. So part of the Trophy Connect is that you also get Amazon Music streaming. So it means you can get rid of your Spotify or whatever else you're paying at the moment, and just use that instead. I actually use Amazon Music streaming on my Android Auto at the moment. Anyway, I pay like £15 a month for that. So I'll be interested to see what the pricing is like on the Trophy Connect, as to how much that costs.
So it might be quite a good time just to pick up on some of the comments that have been made in the chat there, Miles.
Tinted windows.
Tinted windows come up again.
Say that one myself.
Yeah. So the images that have been sent through obviously look like the windows are tinted, but we haven't seen tints on any of the other MG models. So until I actually physically see the car, I don't know. It does look like the glass is slightly tinted on those photos. On the European brochure, it says that it's got tinted windows, but again, the European specification may be different from the UK, or the brochure may be wrong, because marketing people who do brochures sometimes get things wrong. So I'll find out when I drive the car. By the way, somebody's asked when the press day is. I don't know yet. I haven't received my invitation. I've been told to expect an invitation, but I haven't received one yet. So we'll see. I think I expect it to be end of October, start of November.
Reading through the comments, is there a frunk?
No, there isn't. No, there is not a frunk on the vehicle. I don't believe there is. They haven't quoted anyone any measurements anywhere, and I think they would have done had it had a usable frunk. So I guess not.
Is there any kinds of like rear lights, like the HS with the grab lights?
I haven't seen any other pictures. I can't remember from the car I sat in because I only sat in the front. I don't know. I guess I'm going to find out. I can't remember. I know that's the sort of thing that everyone goes, "Oh, why didn't you check that when you were sat in the car?" To be honest, I had about 5 minutes in it, if that, and there was lots of other dealers walking around it. So one thing I was keen to see though was the third headrest in the middle of the rear seat. So that's a useful addition.
Do you know if there'll be a cable for the V2L, won't there?
Yeah, there'll be an accessory cable for the vehicle to load. So you need something that's got a Type 2 on one end and a 3-pin on the other end. On the European images, it shows what looks like a bit of a sort of 4-gang adapter sort of plugged into the front. I don't know what the UK model is going to look like. Obviously, the ones that are on the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 are like short, stubby, sort of.
You may have said before, but
adapters.
all the models are capable of doing that?
Yeah, all the models are capable of doing vehicle to load.
I take it older models like mine won't.
No, it does need a change in the car. So the older version, older cars can't do vehicle to load. It's just those which have got the correct charge port, the correct software and everything on the ECUs behind it.
I'm guessing the lead will come free with a trophy, but you'll have to pay for it for the other two versions.
I don't know. We haven't received any sort of indication of pricing at the moment, and we're not likely to get pricing until the 1st of November, which is the date that MG stated that will announce all the pricing. So
I also read somewhere, again, you probably don't know, but it's worth asking. The steering rack issue, have they changed the steering rack? Is the clonking going to continue?
I believe that there's a different steering rack in this vehicle because it's now got reach adjustment as well as rake adjustment. So I believe it's a different steering rack. I know there's a few people who had a clicking noise with theirs.
I have it.
And it is a Bosch steering rack that's used. So it's not it's not some sort of cheap knockoff thing. It's just they have had an issue with some of them. They've replaced it under warranty, and it seems to have fixed the issue. So hopefully it won't be any difference on. Yeah, it will be a different model now, so it won't have the same issues as that one had. So
electric tailgate?
No electric tailgate, and which is a shame because that would have been nice, but I guess there's got to try and keep the price down really. Yeah. There's also speculation about how much power the new motor is going to have because the European brochure that's been released says 130 kilowatts and it says 150 kilowatts. So we don't know if that's going to be more. If it's 150 kilowatts, that's 201 horsepower. If it's 130 kilowatts, it's 170 something horsepower. So it's still decent power, whichever you go to. But I don't know what the actual figure is. I believe the top speed is increased to 108 miles an hour rather than 95 or 89 or whichever number you choose to believe from the current ZS EV. Also worth saying, sorry, just a couple of little things that we haven't touched on yet. So the trophy model also has wireless phone charger. So that little tray that you've got at the front above your little rotating knob thing, that's now on trophy models. It's a wireless phone charger for fast charging. There's also, as well as the 12-volt socket, the center console now is different. So on the old model, obviously, you've got this sort of under area where your 12-volt and 2 USBs are. And then you've got a pass-through to set it up onto that little tray. So that's now banked off. And instead, you've got a USB-C and a USB-A socket and a 12-volt socket, effectively where the heater controls used to be. And then above that, you've got a series of silver toggle switches, similar to how you'd find in a Mini or something like that. Those sort of up and down metal toggles, or in the MGHS, of course. And they control things like your home screen, your temperature, your fan control, etc. So
does it have a permanent state of charge on the dash now?
Yes, it does. Yes, and it's available on the center console as well, and it's available on your app. So you've now got percentages coming out your ears. And it's also got quite importantly, a 500 kilogram towing capacity. So you can fit on the images, they've got it towing a jet ski, which sounds very European. I guess for us, it's a small Erde camping trailer, or it's a bike rack with some e-bikes on it. But 500 kilos is usable. It's a useful sort of amount. It's the same as the petrol version, so they're not massively towing on the petrol version even, but a 500 kilo towing capacity, and you've still got 75 kilos roof load capacity on this as well. So you've got a variety of places you can put extra weight if you need to.
Will the tow bar be dealer fit or factory fit?
The tow bar will be dealer fit. You can, it'll be available from third parties as well. But it would be, we'd fit it in our dealerships. It wouldn't be coming from the factory with the tow bar on. And what else to say?
What capacity has the roof rails got, Miles?
So it's 75 kilos on the roof. Are
you just pausing to let MG5 owners get their head around that, are you?
No, 75 kilos is the same as, the 75 kilos is what the existing MGZS has anyway. And indeed what the long range MG5 has, I believe. Which actually 75 kilos, again, it's the same sort of capacity as you'd get on any car. The Nissan X-Trail, for example, is 75 kilos. So I think that's, it's a really good load capacity as that. Particularly with having the glass roof as well.
I think the answer is no, but Jack's asking here if there'd be any updates or additions so that the current ZS could take the app.
There's no information to suggest that would be the case. Obviously the software that goes in, the hardware that goes into the car to allow it to work involves SIM cards, includes, communication ECUs and boxes and black boxes and things under the dash. And they're all things that sort of need to be built in the factory and coded in and all the rest of it. It's not something that can sort of.
So very unlikely.
Very unlikely, I'd say. I mean, there may be. I don't think MG would be advantageous for MG to do that, because obviously it all links in through the infotainment system and everything, showing the percentage screens and everything on that, showing the charging timers and everything. So I think it would be, you'd have to change several ECUs to make it work, and even then, the cost of it would be, I imagine, running into thousands by the time you've actually swapped stuff. So
Wayne's also said Bluetooth, Android. Is that going to be still via the cable, or is that wireless now?
Pass.
Auto.
Pass. I don't know if Android Auto is going to be needing the cable. I think, showing it from the videos I've seen, it shows Apple CarPlay being used with the cable. So I assume that the cable is still required for those services. I'll be honest, I quite like having a plugged-in phone in the car for two reasons. One is it tends to give a better connection than wireless. And secondly is my phone actually ends up being charged at some point during the day then. So I went down to Wales and back the other day, and spent best part of sort of 7 or 8 hours driving. It was Anglesey, sorry, mate. Yeah, it was Anglesey. It was not really Wales, is it?
The north bit. Up north.
And 7 hours in the car. So I was using my phone for sat nav all the time. So I'd quite like it being plugged in and charged now, so I get out and I should be able to use it and not worried about it dying partway through.
If you're thinking of seriously trading in your MG for this refresh ZS EV, smash a thumbs up in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be good to see how many people are thinking of upgrading. I mean, obviously, it's quite a good time to do so in some ways, because used car prices are so buoyant at the moment. So if you're in the market, if you have an MG ZS EV, I know one of my friends bought a ZS EV off me, was one of the first deposit holders back in 2019. I think he got his car very early 2020. So he's had it 18 months, nearly 2 years. And I think he said his car's depreciated about £2,000 over the 15,000 miles that he's done it. He's had the car for. So the depreciation is negligible. compared to every other vehicle he's ever had. So, so that's a good indication that, you know, perhaps, you know, if you're thinking about upgrading, I mean, there is a consideration as, you know, how it's going to affect used car prices when this new version comes out, you know. But I think that actually the market itself is so strangled for supply at the moment that any EV, any car, but any EV is going to hold its value very, very well. So I think that the ZS EVs, if people have got a current model, would be in a strong position to upgrade when the pricing is announced in November.
Miles, right at the top, you were saying about how the display panel is far better.
Mhm.
You may not know, but have they got rid of that annoying little lag? Sometimes when you turned up the air conditioning or whatever, it lagged it was only for about a second or whatever, but it took your eye off the road. You kept looking to see if that.
Yeah, no, it's massively improved. Yeah, no, there was no noticeable lag on the model I was trying. And I was switching between various different screens and, you know, loading up the navigation and things like that. And it wasn't, you know, egg timering or, you know, pausing or anything. So it looks like they've done a really good option.
Good. Certainly.
Boot space, how big is it? And can you fit a spare wheel in?
Boot space is the same as it was before. So there's no change to the rear boot space area on the ZS EV. So I can't remember the figure, but it's exactly the same as it was. 474 litres or something, is it? And then there's still space for a spare wheel, well, space saver spare wheel in the boot. And I've just seen somebody's saying, Wayne's asking, price announcement aside, any guess on when we'll be able to place an order and guesstimated delivery times? Well, the pricing is going to be announced on the 1st of November. The order books will open on the 1st of November. And we're expecting the first customer cars to arrive in December. So these cars are already on the water. They actually started production in August. So these cars have been built already and are heading across here.
Brilliant. I'll see you in December then, Miles.
Well, yeah, we're speaking to you in November to take deposit first, yeah. But
you can do that electronically nowadays, you know.
we can, yeah. It's
even in Scotland they've got that.
Yeah, no, I think that to be fair, I think that the Jake's asked what's the driver's binnacle like. It's completely digital now. So yeah, the driver display is now a 7-inch TFT with LEDs displays either side. So yeah, it's fully digitized. So it looks a lot better now, and it gives a lot more information, a lot higher resolution, obviously, compared to the sort of business card sized information screen we have at the moment. That's obviously one of the things that helps with them putting things like, for example, a battery percentage gauge and things like that. You know, you've actually got a lot more screen real estate when you've got 7 inches to work with instead of 2.5.
Another question which I've thought of: do you still get that shadowy effect with the air vent on the window still, or will
the
that
reflection?
be gone? Yeah.
You see, I've never really noticed that too much. But I've got tinted windows on the side of mine, so maybe that cuts out some of the glare that then, because I've got front tints as well on mine. So maybe that cuts out some of the reflections, some of the glints, but
yeah, once you notice it, you
no, I didn't notice in the car, to be fair. The dashboard has got a slightly different design, so maybe those rings don't stand out as much now.
We spoke about this off air, but and I know you don't know, but we don't know at the moment whether the MG pilots had the regen set as opposed to the brakes, do we?
No, that's one thing that I'm looking forward to testing. So obviously the MG5 does use regenerative braking when it's slowing down on the MG Pilot, and the ZS EV current model doesn't. The new version, I hope, does, but I was previously informed by an MG engineer that they were struggling because there was a different braking ECU used for the ZS versus the 5, and so the software wasn't the same, and there was limitations. So I don't know if that's changed now with this longer range version or not. So I don't know, is the frank and honest answer. I hope to find out, and I hope it does.
Will there be a 0 setting on KERS?
Don't know. presume it's just 1, 2, 3 as there is at the moment, but we shall find out when I actually drive the car.
What does the battery button do now?
I don't know. I don't actually know if there's a battery. I can't remember if there's a battery button on the car, to be fair.
In the pictures, it's still there.
Is it? I don't know. I don't know. There is a battery heating option as standard on the head unit. I noticed that. But yeah, no, as in terms of specification, I think the thing is, it addresses a lot of the issues that people previously had with. Yeah, still third time. It's probably blanked out like it was on the MG5. I think that it addresses a lot of the concerns that people had about the original ZS. I mean, the original ZS was and still is stonking value for money for what you get. You know, I think it's a brilliant car. I think I mean, my wife's still got one. You know, I think it ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and I think it's a very, very comfortable and very able car. I think that this just means that it's now able to punch with some of the bigger boys, and if they can keep the pricing to the point where it is still as competitive, you know, still very competitive compared to others in the marketplace, then I think that MG will do very well with it. I don't think that MG is going to suddenly price this, you know, above the government grant level. I don't think they're going to start charging £40,000 for it, anything like that. So I think that it's going to be still very cost competitive. We'll have to wait until the 1st of November to get that confirmed, and then we'll have to wait until also they tell us if it's, you know, what dealer margins there are, and, you know, what deals we can do on PCP and finance and things like that, because that's what matters really, isn't it? It's how much you pay per month. It's how affordable it is in that respect. You know, if a car's
my hope was
£20,000 £500 a month, then you're not going to buy it. But if it's, you know, £30,000 and £300 a month, you're probably more likely to. So
my hope was with the Marvel R round the corner as well, that they would want some kind of price differentiation between the top of the range ZS and the Marvel R. So I'm hoping that there'll be some kind of other. I see somebody in one of the chats earlier on in the week were starting to second guess what their Marvel R might come in at in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, if the pricing has been announced in Europe for the ZS EV facelift. So the longer range version in Europe starts for the comfort for the what they call a comfort model, which is the SE in Europe, in UK, or Excite as it used to be. They say that will start at £34,990. So 90 euros, sorry, which is £29,770, and that's the price given before any government incentives like grants and things. And that the lower range vehicle, again entry level in Europe, would cost €30,990, which is £26,370 at current exchange rates. So that sort of ties in not too bad really with what the current recommended retail prices are for the current model ZS EV. The current top of the range ZS EV is £30,995 in the UK for an exclusive. So assuming that the price point for the trophy isn't too silly higher than what those prices come out, I'm hopeful that, yeah, certainly that the transaction price will be under £35,000 for the top spec with the higher spec interior, you know, the higher spec interior, big battery. And I think that it's very likely that it'll then get the government grant, which will bring it down by £2,500. And I think that it'll, yeah, I think it'll still compete, even if the top spec with the big battery and everything was £32,500. It's still very cost competitive compared to the what else is in the marketplace. You know, in a similar range, you're basically looking at Nero, the Kia Soul, and the Hyundai Kona. And in terms of how much they cost, you know, I think that only the Soul is available under 32 under the government grant now. I think everything else is above the grant for the longer range battery. So I think that yeah, I think that MG's got certainly going to be continuing to sell lots and lots of cars.
Yeah. So I'll open it up to the other guys sitting around. Mike, what's your thoughts? We know you've got a Pimlico Blue ZS there.
If I had the money, yes, I would be upgrading. Money's tight at the moment, so I'll have to just keep on holding on to mine for the time being. But I would love the vehicle to load feature. I think that might be useful. And possibly the app. I love my technology.
Yeah. Steve, what's your thoughts?
It looks like MG have definitely listened to the customers and the niggles and things that the current model had, and they've addressed it absolutely. As a second vehicle to replace the Kona that I have here as well, yeah, I'll be definitely looking at replacing it with this, with probably a lower battery one, because I don't need the range. And I'm only a year into my current vehicle, and being on Motability, I've got 2 years left on that. So we'll see what happens in 2 years, but I drive that absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So certainly from my point of view, I would definitely be interested. It's almost as if remember we did a Santa list about December last year. It's almost as if they've nicked everything that we asked for and put. So maybe Santa does exist. But
we've been good boys, you see. That's what it is.
It's what?
We've obviously been good. We've been naughty this year.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely be interested. I think the longer range for me would just take away any anxiety. I could, as I said earlier, I could get down the central belt easily. And I heard on your wonderful video podcast that you did about the launch for Chorley Motor Group. Charging time at 100 kilowatt is what, about, did you say 42 minutes? Do you think it'll be, or?
Yeah, so the figures that they've given us, if I just refer to my notes, so on a rapid charger, it says, 42 minutes on a 100 kilowatt rapid charger, it would be 42 minutes to go from 10% to 80%, which I think is perfectly acceptable. And obviously, when you're going, when you think about the size of the battery as well, if in that 42 minutes, you're looking at adding perhaps 200 miles of range or more. So it's quite a chunk that you're adding in that 42 minutes. It's not just, whereas with the original MG, where in 42 minutes you'd say, oh, it's gone to 80%, it's added, 20% to 80%, and it's added, 80 miles. It's adding quite a chunk really in that time. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a very good, very usable car, and certainly, doing the North Coast 500 with one stop is is a bit of a game changer, really, isn't it? So
that's good, because there's only one charger working in the North Coast 500. Not true, but because it's hard to get your head around. Because when I was thinking, oh God, when I go down south or whatever, do I really want to be sitting at a 50 kilowatt charger for over an hour and 20 minutes, whatever? But with the bigger capacity, as you say, you can just top up, take on another 200 miles and go to where you want to go. I think it's going to be great. For me, I think it's going to be really useful and make it. It'll take away the only one doubt I've ever had about the car, which is range anxiety, as you will have heard me all speaking about before. But
yeah, well, the range anxiety started with the day you collected the car, wasn't it? Even so, it was.
Yeah,
baptism of fire in many ways, but it's. I think is that I think the car does a lot. I think it's good to have vehicles to load on a car at this price point, because the other options that we have are basically, the Ioniq 5 and the Kia V6, and both of those you have to pay additional for the adapter or the ability to do it. So I think if that's a standard feature, that will be very welcome. I think that the improvements to the infotainment system, obviously, I'm very, very happy with it. I think that generally, I think they've ticked a lot of the boxes. I genuinely think it's going to be. I mean, I know I sell them, but I'm honestly excited about it, because I think it's a really, really good car.
Just to check, vehicle to load, that's a 10 amp maximum. So you could granny charge another car?
Yes, you could. Yeah. So, you could, if you needed to, you could share your power with somebody else at the roadside. I mean, bear in mind, it's going to be a slow job.
Yeah.
But potentially, yes, you could. I don't know. You could go to now, Dave. You see all the rapid charges in Scotland. You've got to pay for one, haven't you? That was going to say what you could have done back in the day. You could have gone and filled your boots and then gone home and and run your house off it or whatever, or charged your
It's
off it.
There's still free power to be got in Scotland. It depends on the local authority. Unfortunately, Highland and Murray and Aberdeenshire, the ones up close to me, are all charging. But yes, Perthshire and I believe Fife, I think, are not charging yet. But yeah, it would be a true Scotsman, and it goes from Inverness down to Fife to get a free charge. Not quite that bad.
You could run your freezer off the vehicle to load, though, if you had a power cut, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, and that's actually one example that somebody gave recently. They'd had the Ioniq 5 for like 3 days, and they had a power cut at home, and did it for 4 or 5 hours. They just plugged the freezer in on an extension reel to the car to keep it going. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds daft, but probably it's one of those things that once you've got it, you go, oh, actually, that comes in quite handy. It might just be that, I don't know, you've got an allotment and you need to run a lawnmower or something off, whilst you're down there, anything, sort of random, sort of things like that. You just think, oh, actually, it can be sometimes handy to have power. You go down, I don't know, you go to the beach, or you go to the Lake District, park up next to a lake, and you can, put a sound system plugged in or whatever. There's a few things that you can think of that you think, oh, actually, that could be handy.
I've got solar panels. I'm looking at maybe getting a battery to charge off the solar panels. But I won't need one now. I'll just plug in the car. That would be. Yeah,
there's a big difference between vehicle to load and vehicle to house or vehicle to grid. So it's limited to pretty much one device, or I say keep your total under 10 amps. So you can run a few low powered devices. You can't suddenly take your house off grid, unfortunately. But
or a hot tub.
Or a hot tub. Well, yeah, no, it would be a fairly cold hot tub. But no, you could. But you could. There's a number of things that you could use it for. I've got I used to have a little electric camping barbecue thing that it had a 10 amp limit on it. So something like that you could use. Go for a day at the beach and take a microwave with you. I don't know. It's whatever you think, but it's it potentially it's got its uses, and I think it's one of those things that. Particularly if you do camping and things, it'll come in handy. Even if you can run a cool box properly rather than off your 12 volt and knacker that up. So.
What about a kettle, or is that going to be too much?
Depends on the kettle. If it's a travel kettle, it'd be okay. If it's one of those instant 1 minute, water to cup things, instant hot water, they do chuck out quite a bit of power. But
you need to be really careful to make sure that it's within the load capability, don't you?
Yeah.
So you have a 10 amp kettle, perfect, but not one of these rapid boil ones.
Yeah, not a rapid boil, no. I just seen David Clark Bell's comment, vehicle to load should allow full or set load to battery level. So vehicles to load, you can set it so that it discharges to a certain drop point. So you can set it, David missed it before, we can set it on the navigation system. You can choose whether you want it to drop down to a minimum of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50% when you're using vehicle to load. So you can set how low you want it to discharge to.
An update, breaking news, they are charging in Fife. Although, it's Richard who said that. I was in St Andrews last week and I saw a free charge point, definitely in St Andrews, downside the golf hotel, St Andrews, the Old Course Hotel.
Very good.
David Venn says, I'm not sure if I have the top range one service in Newcastle mind. It's been a long time since they've seen a trophy.
They'll be able to buy their own trophies soon in Newcastle, won't they?
So just to recap there, Miles, colour-wise, the whites remaining, the blacks remaining, and the reds remaining.
Yep.
Blues going from Pimlico blue to Battersea blue.
Battersea blue, yep. And then we've got Monument Silver is the new colour.
And introducing Monument Silver. Is white still the cheapest?
White is solid white, so yeah, that'll be the cheapest.
Just one quick question. On the 5, the blue is called something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different shade of blue. It's oh gosh, you've got me now.
Is it named after another place in London?
Westminster blue? No, Westminster silver. And oh gosh, this is you see, you caught me on the hop here now because I'm gonna have to Google this because they're gonna kill me because I don't know my colours. mg.co.uk, here we go.
Piccadilly blue.
Piccadilly blue, that's the one. Piccadilly, yes.
So will they call the next blue West Ham blue? Or something London based?
They are all London-based colours. So originally they were named after the tube stops, and it was the corresponding colour for the line that they sat on. Although I believe that Battersea is actually on the DLR, so that's not on a blue line at all. So I don't know. But originally they were all named after stops. So, for example, Monument was on a grey line, things like that. So.
You'd have to be very careful with that. If something like Highbury Red might not sell very well in some parts of it.
Oh no, yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, Manchester Blue probably wouldn't work too well for half the people outside Manchester.
Shame they're stuck with 17-inch rims. I think an 18 would have looked better in there. It's one thing I've always thought the wheels look a little small in the wheel arch.
Yeah, I mean, it actually fills the arches slightly better. So they've increased the tyre size from a 50 to a 55 profile. So that's filled the arches ever so slightly. The wheels are about sort of 6 millimeters bigger in radius. So they do sort of fill that little bit of gap between the wheel arch and the thing. The reason they've gone for 17s, again, it's down to, well, A, cost, and B, efficiency as well. So the bigger the wheel, typically the less miles you get.
Yeah.
So, the last thing to mention, sorry, in Europe, the MGZS EV facelift comes with an 11 kilowatt three-phase charger as standard. Now, in the UK, it's been given in our specification as a 7 kilowatt single-phase charger. Now, part of the reason for that is in Europe, they do tend to use three-phase electricity for their homes. So a lot of houses, for example, in France and Germany and so on, have three-phase power to their houses, but they have a limited supply. So they have maybe 60 amp main supply, but 3 phases, which, gives you sort of 180 amps total, whereas we have 100 amps, but on a single phase. So for us, it's easier to have a single 7 kilowatt charger with 32 amps. Often in European countries, it's easier to install a 3-phase 16 amp charger, which gives you 11 kilowatts overall. So in Europe, they're going with the 11 kilowatt 3-phase charger, but I think in the UK, we'll probably stick with the 7 kilowatt charger. Certainly, according to the documentation we have, that's what it says.
And if Stuart Whitman was here, he would be asking, even we've still got 7 kilowatt hour governor on AC charging, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Aye, so even if you're at an AC with 22, you will be maxed.
Yeah,
out.
correct. Yeah, and I think that's what. Yeah, if they put the 11 kilowatt charger on the UK model, yes, you potentially could charge 11 kilowatts on a rapid charger or on a 22 kilowatt charger, but there aren't that many 22 kilowatt chargers about, and the cost of that extra charger putting it on the UK model probably isn't worth it for the number of 11 or 22 kilowatt chargers that there are in the UK versus rapids or 7 kilowatts.
I take it with 11 kilowatt, it'll only pull 3.6 on a 7 kilowatt charger.
Depending how they've implemented it. So traditionally, yes. Although I know that some models like the new Hyundai Kona has 11 kilowatts on 3-phase or 7 kilowatts on single phase. I don't know what jiggery-pokery they do to get that, but it does. So having one doesn't necessarily stop the other, but it does add cost.
And another question: auto rear dimming mirror.
Oh, we wish. Oh, please, 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 please.
I don't know. To be fair, I can't. In fact, actually, can zoom in on the photo there and see. It's whether we can see it's an auto dimming rear view mirror. I can't remember seeing it on the spec guide anywhere.
That's the only thing. Although I say that's the only thing I miss about my Seat. I can't remember that many times when I've gone, oh bloody hell, I'm having to change this mirror manually.
Yeah, no, I can see on the photo that it's coming from Europe. It doesn't have an auto dimming rear view mirror. However, that's the left-hand drive version, and the right-hand drive version may be different. So don't hold me to it. It looks like it's not auto dimming on the European left-hand drive images, but we'll wait till we see what the actual right-hand drive one looks like.
Come on, Santa, that was on my list. So,
Yeah, Jason, how many miles is it from Portsmouth to Manchester? We can see.
I don't know, but you can do some 273 miles on a, I think Portsmouth to Manchester. Google Maps get it. I don't know. I want to say probably you could probably just about do it on a. I mean, I'd probably want to stop on that journey anyway because it's.
you better put in some, on KERS 3 on Eco with windows
Well,
closed.
curves on the motorway won't make much difference, but Portsmouth to Manchester is.
Especially if you're behind a megabus.
Picking up their Wi-Fi.
241 miles if you take the toll road.
One thing I did realise we're going to have to change, especially for the MG EV community, are the T-shirts.
Yeah, the grill's going to change. Yeah, the wheels are going to
And
change.
the wheel trims.
Yeah,
And the wheels, yes.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is OG T-shirt.
For Stuart's got a lot of work ahead of him.
yeah. No, so the 240 miles it is from Portsmouth to Manchester. So yeah, if you drive in sensibly, sort of under 70 miles an hour on the motorway, you get there with a bit to spare. If you do it at 70 in winter, it might be a little bit closer, but I think it'd be fairly. I've delivered a car down to. I've picked up a car from Southampton before, the original 44 kilowatt hour version, and driven it back to Chorley, Manchester, and it was. I think I stopped about Banbury, and then I stopped again around sort of Stoke, and each time I've been driving sort of 3 or 4 hours as it was, so because of the traffic, so.
Also, if you don't take the toll roads around Birmingham, you probably get even more miles per kilowatt due to the traffic.
Yeah, stop-start, yeah. So basically, at the moment, that's pretty much all I can tell you about all I know. That's genuinely all I know. I need to physically drive one and see what the rest of it's like because, these, papers tell you one thing, but it's only when you actually drive the thing you go, actually, yes, I can get X amount of miles myself if I drive it my normal way, drive it my normal roads. So that's hopefully going to be in a couple of weeks. So I don't think we'll have. I think by the time we do the next podcast, I still won't have driven it.
Right.
I think it'll be the 1st of November before
Well, I think
press launch happens. But
the podcast community are really upset, Miles, that you've only been invited to the press day and you're not fronting up the press day.
oh no, well I'm as we've said before, unless I work for a dealership group, but I'm an enthusiast. I like MGs. I like electric cars, and I am a geek. So I do like, as everybody else is sort of getting excited about these facts and figures coming out about the new car, so am I. So I think that it's I get excited, and they just don't tell me everything straight away because they know that I'm a blabbermouth, and I'll just end up putting it on a podcast and telling everybody. So I think that it's probably wise that they don't even tell me when the press launches until I'll probably get a message the day before and say, Miles, you need to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep you curbed. Great. Well, it's good. It's me. It's almost an hour. You've been talking almost non-stop about the new car. So, God, there's plenty to talk about. Just before I wind up, is there any other comments that maybe? And thanks everybody for keeping the comments going. It's something that we're really keen to make sure that gets included more in the podcast. And I did notice at one stage, I think 165 folk viewing, which I think is probably one of our highest levels. So thanks everybody very much to everybody for tuning in. Mike, is there anything I've missed out, or Steve, is there anything I missed out?
Are the seats going to be perforated a bit to allow them to breathe a little?
Don't know. Can't see it on the photos. Hope so. We shall find out when I actually drive it.
I saw a couple of people asking if it had a rear interior light now.
Yep, don't know. I don't think so. Looking at the photos, I can't see one in the grab handles at least, but there might be one further back. I just can't see it on the photo. So again, we'll have to drive it and find out.
I hope they're LED ones as well, because it'd be much brighter if they were.
Well, they've got LEDs pretty much everywhere. So, you know, the headlights and everything's all LEDs now.
Also, Jody asks for Miles, when are MG going to appoint you as their UK ambassador?
Well, I am partial to a Ferrero Rocher, so that would work quite well.
Okay, so yes, I've just looked down at the clock and seen that we have been speaking for almost an hour on this new model. So as we said right at the start, it's pretty much a single topic podcast today. So before we go, there's a few things I need to bring to everybody's attention. Yes, I see that. There's a £10 donation from MG London Drive. Thank you very much for that. That's great. We put out an invite that we've had one or two lady MG owners coming on to the podcast. Please, we would love to hear more. We want to get as many viewpoints as possible. And then similarly, Steve, great hearing from you from the Motability point of view, but also, you know, we want to extend that. And if anybody is a driver with a disability, we would love to hear about how you're coping with the car and what advantages, disadvantages you see. Again, thanks to our Premier members. There's Tyson UK's joined, Jake, MJ224, Tom McConnell, Elect Car Ost and Simon D have all joined recently. It only costs £3 a month. From that, you get Premier membership badge, the ability to upload the profile banner, the ability to select the exclusive MG Red theme, and then, as Mike was demonstrating earlier, there is also MG EV merchandise. And if you are a Premier member, you get a full 10% discount when you're ordering that, when you use the code. But by far the biggest contribution you're making is you're making all this happen. You're allowing us to come on, and we hope we're reflecting your views and letting you have your say. Please, finally, please look at the merchandise. Thanks very much for everybody who has bought, and look forward to seeing Mike in a new outfit soon once Stuart gets all the updates done. So to bring the podcast to a close for this week, I'd really like to thank Mike Fisher.
Evening, all.
Steve Green, great to have you on board, Steve.
Thanks for the opportunity. Night, folks.
And Miles, another fantastic batting performance today. Thanks very much for all your info, and it'll be great to hear more about the car, but thanks again to you, Miles.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll be back with another MG EV podcast soon. Please click all the likes and subscribes. We really appreciate that. Thanks, everybody, for contributing. It's been a really good two-way thing with the chat tonight. And again, a special thanks to Miles. Fantastic info. And I think we're as enthusiastic as you are, but it's great to hear everything. Thanks, everybody. And it's a good night from us. Good night.
Bye.
Right.